my name is Lorraine Shore. Thank you very much for coming to the meeting tonight. I know it's a lovely day out, so we really appreciate your attendance. And this is it primarily Gales Edition, Harborcrest area? Is there anybody from somewhere else in the county, another neighborhood? Oh, great, excellent. So anyway, what we do tonight is we'll talk about crime prevention and what we have going on in the county, particularly in your area. And we'd like to hear from you. If you have a particular issue that you would like us to talk about, if you have a dope house in your area, or you have a speeding problem, or whatever your particular problem is, let us know, and we'll be happy to help focus on that as well. So tonight we have Sheriff Benedict from the Clallam County Sheriff's Office, and we have Chief Brian Smith from the Port Angeles Police Department, and Prosecutor Mark Nichols. And I work for Sheriff Benedict and Chief Smith sometimes. And then we have Al Kameen, who is the volunteer for the Clallam County Sheriff's Office that really has done a tremendous amount of work with Neighborhood Watch over the years, has been very, very successful in many areas. Now we have Carol and George March, who you met, that have been helping you get down here. And without our volunteers in both the Sheriff's Office and the Port Angeles Police Department, it would be very, very difficult to do quite a bit. And we have Bruce O'Rourke, who just joined the Port Angeles Police Department volunteer unit. And thanks to one of our meetings, I think, he got roped into it, but he's doing a fabulous job. And we rely on people in the community to help us to find you if you're lost. All of our search and rescue volunteers are, well, they're all volunteers, the entire search and rescue team, except for the supervisor, who is a sergeant, and then we have one of our deputies as well. And then we have the incident management team, and they will respond in the event of an emergency, and we activate the Emergency Operations Center, which is right here. So if we have a big disaster and we have to get everybody together and figure out how we're going to respond with all of our agencies in the county, those are almost all volunteers, and they come and they get meet training a couple of times a month. And we really like it when people would like to volunteer in those areas, because there is going to require a lot of people to come in here and help organize that entire effort. So we do a lot with our volunteers. We have a wonderful department on both sides, and so I will let Sheriff Benedict start, and then Chief Smith will.
Thanks. Am I on the camera just right? Thanks a lot. I just got back from 2 weeks in Kona, Hawaii. It's been a bit of a culture shock here, and I'd like to say I just can't get used to the time zone, but it's too damn cold outside, and it's been pretty warm. So anyway, a long time ago I went through a Navy school to become an instructor, and they said the key to presentations is three things. Number one is tell them what you're going to tell them. Number two, tell them. And number three, tell them what you told them. So I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to sum this right up. I'm in, gosh, I don't know, 7th, 8th year of doing this, and each time my presentation gets shorter because I'm getting better at condensing. Here's what I'm going to tell you, and it'll fit into place when you hear everything else that follows. Number one, lock your stuff up. Number two, watch out for your neighbors. Because if you don't, you will be a victim of crime. And being a victim of crime is not a rewarding experience. As a matter of fact, if you go through it, and our prosecutor here will probably hit on that, it's far from a perfect system. It's the only system we have. But it seems that victims of crime, when they actually go through it, and they go through the court process, and a lot of them are awarded compensation and restitution, and they've been ripped off to the tune of $20,000 or $30,000, and they see they're getting a check for $5 a month to pay them back. You're not going to like that. Anyway, that's just the way it is. The good news is that our violent crime rates are exceptionally low. The bad news is that our property crime rates, which have had a long-term decline, appear to have bottomed out and are inching their way back up. And it appears that this crime is, by and large, in our county, driven by users of opiates, whether they're prescription or heroin or whatnot. So that's a fairly difficult problem to deal with. It isn't just a matter of finding the dope dealers and locking them up, although we try to do that. A lot of it is having to do with what we're going to tell you, to target, harden, and try not to experience this. So with that, who's next? Or are there any questions for me? Wonderful. I'll be here in the back. If anything comes up, I'll jump in. Chief Smith.
So just to follow on what the sheriff said, you know, we very much appreciate you guys being here. This is collectively one of the best parts of our job, is doing these presentations and meeting with you all and providing you some tools and some ammunition to, you know, as the sheriff said, you know, the thing that we don't want to talk about, the bad things that happen, is, you know, it's property crime. But there is good news. There's things that you'll do to your neighborhood. There's things that'll be different in your world after you're here, after you get to know each other, and after you listen to some of these great presentations. And you know, it's like the tree that falls in the wood that no one sees. It didn't really happen. So property crime is a problem for us. Drug addicted property crime is where it all comes from. And like today, talking to Rob Olkine with PDN about some burglaries that had happened. They're, you know, occupied residences. People were home when it happened. The houses, for different reasons, weren't locked, and you can't get mad at people for not locking their houses, because, you know, it's their house. They don't have to. But we really would like you to, like the sheriff said, lock your stuff up. It would make us very happy if you did. And
Even when you're home?
well, sure, why not? Right? I mean, that's a good question. I used to not ever do it. I'd be home. I'd leave the front door unlocked. I had a known drug offender about 6 years ago show up on my doorstep on a Saturday morning, and PAPD was very busy that day, and I could not get officers there quick enough. So I stood on my driveway on my curtilage with this person who was high on, I think, heroin, and I didn't want her to leave too far, but I wanted her in the house. And at the time, our 5-year-old daughter thought it was pretty cool, so she wouldn't leave. She was right next to me. And when the officers did arrive, there was a little bit of an altercation in my driveway, and you know, this lady would have walked into our house. That's with a police car in my driveway. So yeah, locking the front door, great idea. We're here to answer all your questions. We're here to provide you far more information than there's enough time in the night. And hopefully when you're done and you've heard Al and Bruce and Mark and Lorraine, you'll have some email connections, and we'll be able to, you know, answer some questions. And some really interesting things have happened. Bruce started a neighborhood watch group where he lives near Jesse Webster. He's got some great success stories on what they did in their neighborhood, applying a lot of the stuff that Al talked about at a meeting that I was at. And you know, his neighborhood is now a place that they don't call the police that much anymore, right? They still do, but I mean, compared to how it was. So we're excited to have you here, and we're looking forward to your questions and talking to you. Thank you.
It's working. I love it when my computer stuff works. So we all have a responsibility to be prepared and to get training, and that's what we're here for tonight. And the reason, of course, is because, as you'll hear tonight from the people that are going to present, our staffing levels are somewhat limited in each of our departments, but because we work together as a team, Port Angeles Police Department works with Sheriff's Office, works with School Police Department, we're able to accentuate the resources so we can have a wider coverage with more people because we all work together. So that's really great. But the unfortunate part of that is we can't be everywhere at once. And so if anything happens, you need to be prepared and know what to do. And that's whether it's a crime issue or a disaster issue. So we're going to talk about how to do that. How do you contact the police department? When should you contact the police department? What can you do to prepare yourself in the event of a disaster? Now, we do have a great program called Map Your Neighborhood. Has anyone attended Map Your Neighborhood? Oh, a couple people, okay. Map Your Neighborhood is a wonderful program that it will be very beneficial to everybody in the entire county because it does focus on that golden hour after disaster. How do you prepare yourself to survive that? Because you most likely will not see a first responder for a while if we have a major event. So Map Your Neighborhood will teach everyone that attends that class how to determine who in your neighborhood needs assistance in the event that there is a disaster, who has resources that are available, say someone has medical training or they have propane or a front end loader or something that you might need, and you keep that information with you at home. And then if something happens, you can just take that information out and utilize that so that you are much more prepared than if you had not attended something like this. So I would encourage you to do that. If you signed in on the sign-in sheets and gave me your email address, after the meeting tomorrow or next week, I will be sending out an email to everyone and I'll synopsize this meeting with active links and information so you can contact me and ask if you'd like to have a Map Your Neighborhood meeting or if you have any questions. So what is Neighborhood Watch? Our fantastic Neighborhood Watch volunteer is going to give you a nice quick presentation on the 3 things that really make up Neighborhood Watch, and then we'll go into some more detail after that.
When she said quick presentation, that was a hint to me to keep it short. I sometimes get pretty excited about it. The nature of Neighborhood Watch is, number 1, first and foremost, crime prevention, to keep from being a victim in the first place. So keep that in mind, because if you are a victim, as everybody here has told you, you won't be happy not only about being a victim, but about the realities of today's systems and justice system. So avoid being a victim. And as high as 90-95% of the crime that occurs, the property crimes that we're talking about, most of the issues are totally preventable. They're what we call low-hanging fruit for the criminal. People leave their cars unlocked. They leave a window open. They leave their homes unlocked. And yes, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But in today's reality, you do need to worry about that. And unfortunately, all those things, and I'm included, I've got a lot of years under my belt, and I picked up a lot of habits along the way. Some of them are being trustworthy of folks, and I have to continually ask my wife when we go out, did we lock that door? Did we check this window? Did we do this and that? And that's how you change habits. Habits are basically unconscious responses to circumstances. Over the years, you form certain ways of reacting to certain circumstances. And you just do it unconsciously. It's like tying your shoes, you know. You don't even think about it. You can reach down, tie your shoes, carry on a conversation, and be done, and not even remember tying them. That's a habit. So you got to change your habits. And if you live with someone, get them to help you. If you live alone, get yourself some Post-it notes and stick near the door that says, check the locks. Remember to lock the windows. You're going to hear a lot of tips about things you can do to target harden your home. But the first step is to make yourself more situationally aware. And that means, what habits do I have that are creating a problem for me? If you've ever had a car ransacked or car prowled, as we call it, it's because your habit didn't teach you to double check your car door and lock it. You would be absolutely amazed at how, well, you're going to see some statistics on car prowls and how many people have their cars prowled through. And unfortunately, a lot of people used to leave a lot of stuff in their cars. We have a lot of firearms theft out of vehicles, and that puts everybody at risk, including our officers. So please start becoming aware of habits. How many of you ever pulled into a parking lot at a convenience store or something and seen a car with its engine running and nobody in it? Maybe even children in the back seat? Yeah. Well, you're seeing more and more stories where somebody will hop into that car and drive off. Not from around here, although I think there has been an instance. But you can't do that anymore. You have to become aware that people are looking for opportunities, and you take away those opportunities from the criminal, and they're going to know that they need to go somewhere else. Neighborhood Watch consists of only 3 major components: organization, getting to know your neighbors; education, getting to know what tools are available, what resources are available, and how to use those resources. And the last one, and the most important one, is communication. And that communication is not only with us as law enforcement and public safety, but communication with your neighbors. You see something, say something, not only to us, and we give you the number for dispatch, which there are some packets up here. Be sure you get a packet when you leave. And there for a while, it was really difficult to find out, who do I call? PAPD, the sheriff's office. What you really want to call if you want a deputy, if it's in a life-threatening situation, of course, 911. But if you've got a question, a suspicious vehicle, if you want to talk to a deputy, or you want to talk to a police officer, you can call Dispatch Center, which dispatches for all of Clallam County and the Olympic Peninsula here. And that number is right on Lorraine's card right here. And I can't urge you enough. Put it on your phones, put it in your address book, write it down, and put it on your refrigerator. That number, once you learn it, just dial that number and you will get 24/7 response. You know, when the 911 call went down there for a while, a few months ago, I guess it was, that number still worked and went to the same place, and you could have got somebody right away. So that number is critical. Target hardening your home is in this brochure. Very important brochure. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Education. One of the most important, I remember when we started this 10 years ago, it was a dream of ours to be able to provide all of you in the county with more insight on all the ways you could be helped. Well, we had a volunteer come down from Alaska that was an IT specialist, and he designed our website. And I routinely look at websites around the country in other counties and states. And I believe that we have one of the best websites for what we do that's in this country. Tremendous amount of information. Can you happen to go to that website? Is your little clicker thing? That website, if you want to know something, you can go to that website. And by the way, if you don't know how to get to a website, you can just go to Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use and type in Clallam County Sheriff. This is what you'll get. And you're going to get anonymous tips you can send in, calendars of what's going on. You can see who's coming and going from the jail. And because most of the bad guys are relatively few in number, we have 73,000 folks here in the county, all the cities and everything. You'll see the same people in and out, and the prosecutor will help you become aware of how that happens. But you'll get to know, and sometimes you'll see a name go into the jail, and you might notice that the crime reports go way down because that individual was responsible for a number of the issues. And so our job is to get them in jail and off the street, and to discourage them from coming into your neighborhood. Now, you can't control all the other neighborhoods except by encouraging them to do what you do as you get good at it. But you can keep them out of your neighborhood. What will keep them out? The criminals in this county now know that when they see a neighborhood watch sign, that they're probably going to be an active neighborhood watch. And the way they know that is if they drive through, people will step out on the porch and watch them and not hide behind the bar, just stay down, kind of stay out of sight. They'll make a point of being seen. If they're out in the yard, they might, "You look lost, can I help you?" Ask them questions. They do not want to be stopped. They do not want to be questioned. They do not want to be seen. And they will start avoiding the neighborhoods that are actively watching. All of you have seen stories in the press about people who have been caught on digital cameras and then convicted because it's a little tough to deny. I was nowhere near the area when someone can pull out a phone or a video digitized and show the time, date, GPS location. And they know that. And so when they see somebody that looks like they're being watched or taped, whatever you want to call it, they will evacuate the area. Another thing that really bothers them is noise. Most of the crimes, except for vehicle prowls, occur during the day, but vehicle prowls occur at night. But if you're in your home and you hear something bump in the night, or you see furtive movement out in your driveway, you have an alarm device. Almost every vehicle these days has a panic button on their key fob. Don't hesitate to trip that for a minute. When that car horn starts going off, they will go off because they do not want to be spotted. So you have a way to deter them right there. People forget about that. Again, it's becoming consciously aware of what your choices are and then using those choices. Am I going too fast for anybody? I get kind of
Don't worry, I will repeat it over and over.
Okay.
You're good?
I'm good.
You are. I won't put you through any more, I swear. He's such a nice man. So this is the number that Al talked about several times, and that's very, very important to have. Yes, sir.
And that's different from 452-4545, which still works, right?
Right. The 4545 is a Port Angeles Police Department number, and it will roll over to dispatch after hours, so no problem calling that as well. That's just the direct line right into dispatch. So if for some reason 4545 is not working, or you just want to call directly in, then that's an excellent number to have in your phone. So good question. And they are open 24/7. I can't tell you the number of times that I'm working in the business office and the sheriff's office, that I get phone calls asking to report a crime or report something suspicious. And you don't call the sheriff's office, you don't call Port Angeles Police Department, you call dispatch, because they're the ones that actually talk to all of the officers and the deputies on the peninsula. So that's good to know. We do have a lot of communication tools, as Al talked about, the sheriff's website. Have you all signed up for the Clallam County Alert System, I hope? Well, if you haven't, it's a good thing to do, because we don't do the reverse 911 anymore. Remember how the reverse 911 is fairly terrible system, because it only hit maybe 30% of the people that we needed to call. So now what we have is, we call it's Everbridge is the company, and we have this Clallam County Alert System. And what we need you to do is you need to sign up and create an account, and it basically takes you a couple minutes to do, and you say, I would like to be alerted in the event of a law enforcement activity or PUD, emergency, or maybe a highway road closure or something like that. There, it gives you a little list of things that you would like to have information about. And it's excellent because it allows us to contact you how you want to be contacted. You can say, I want to phone call on my cell phone. I want an email. I want to be called at work. And you can actually say, I'd like to be told about incidents that happen in my area and where I work, or my child's daycare, or my grandchild's daycare. And so you get information about all of that that's happening in that area when you need it, not later when it's too late. We had the big accident yesterday on the highway. It would be really nice if you knew about that before you went out and hit the highway. So things like that is what Everbridge is used for and how we alert you, but we can't do it unless we have that information. So you need to sign up for it. It does upload the white pages, but if you're not home or you don't use a landline like most people anymore, we just don't have that information. So you need to sign up for the alert system. It's a wonderful system.
I'm sorry, that was a link on that page?
Yep, it's on the sheriff's website, and I believe that PAPD also has it. Bruce, do you know, on their website?
I don't know that they do.
Well, the Clallam County Alert System is definitely on ours, so just go to the sheriff's office website. It's right there. Just click on sign up. So the sheriff's Facebook page is also available, and we did that because the West End, years ago, we found out that really nobody got any newspapers over there. They just relied on Facebook. So we now have a tremendous number of followers on our page because it is a great way for you to keep up with events that are occurring in the county fairly timely. We do our news releases out there on our Facebook page, so if you don't get the newspaper, you'll get it on the Facebook page. Sometimes we'll have wanted people. We have a prolific burglar that's running around right now that has, again, failed to comply with his DOC conditions and has not reported in. So we put his picture up there and said, please let us know if you see him. So those types of things are on our Facebook page. It's a great resource for you if you'd like to use it. And Nextdoor.com, do you have Nextdoor.com, or anybody signed up on that? It's a new tool that has come out. It's a database designed for neighborhoods. And it's sort of like I equate it to a Facebook for neighborhoods. It's a way for you to sign up and create an account on Nextdoor.com saying, I live on whatever your street is, Harborcrest or Gales Mission Street. And it'll tell you, we have a Nextdoor.com neighborhood already established, and you're now part of that. And if they don't, then you can say, I'd like to establish this neighborhood on Nextdoor, and you can invite your friends that live there. The Clallam County Sheriff's Office is an agency for Nextdoor.com for Clallam County. And we haven't quite started to utilize the tool yet about letting you know, but it's another way for us to communicate with you. We have some neighborhoods that have gone on Nextdoor.com and created their neighborhood group, and you don't share each other's email, so it's not like you get everybody's personal information, but you can log in there and talk to each other. So you can, if they're using it for house sitting and garage sales, or people coming around the neighborhood and trying to sell you things like, vacuum cleaner salesman. So alerts, basically. So it's just another communication tool. If you like to get on the computer and you're fairly savvy about that type of thing, you'll probably love it. So Anonymous Tips database is also on our website, and everybody in the county uses this. Doesn't matter if you live in the city of PA or if you live in the county or city of Sequim. The Anonymous Tips database on our website is another great tool for you to use if you'd like to, say, report a code enforcement violation or an animal issue, or maybe you have a drug house in your area and you'd like to give us some information about that, but didn't feel you wanted to call an officer or a deputy out and make a report right then. So you can go online 24/7 and you can give us information. You can upload photos. You can say, I saw a suspicious person or vehicle in my area today. I'd like to give you this information, or I think somebody is abusing their animal, or I think there's a code enforcement violation. Whatever you would like to do, you can put on Anonymous Tips. And it goes to an encrypted server, so I do not know who sends me this tip, and it all comes to me. And I don't work 24/7, so if you need an officer or a deputy, you have to call dispatch. Don't do it on Anonymous Tips, because dispatch does not see that. And when I get that tip, I'll figure out where it needs to go. If it's a drug tip, I'll send it off to the drug task force. If it's a code enforcement violation, I'll send it to the code enforcement officer for either the city or the county. And that way I can also send you back an email and say, just so that you know your tip was forwarded to so-and-so. For more information, or they would like to talk to you, please contact. I don't know who I'm talking to, but it gives you the information about where your tip went, what's being done on it, and if they need some more information, who to contact. Most people don't remain anonymous because there's really no reason to. It's just a lot of people like to use that site so that they can just, on their computer, give us some information. Oops. We also have an email, sheriff@co.clallam.wa.us. Welcome to use it. If you'd like to contact us about anything, we're very quick on replying. You can send us photos, you can do all kinds of things. We have a number of different ways for you to talk to us. So does Port Angeles Police Department, and we welcome that, because if we don't have a two-way communication between our residents and ourselves, it's very difficult for us to respond appropriately and help you. So it's, we only have a couple of guys out on the street at any given time. We need you to tell us what's happening out there so that we can direct our resources very effectively. The Drug Task Force tip line, I don't know if anybody ever called it, but it is manned by a gentleman named Bob Orth, and his whole sole job is to collect intel in this county about drug issues. And OPNET, which is the Drug Task Force, the Olympic Peninsula Narcotics Enforcement Team, they are tasked with finding sort of the big fish, right? The people that bring in the big quantities of dope, and you'll see press releases every so often about some of the really major cases they make. However, you may have some information on, somebody's using or buying at a particular place that may be what they need to really get enough for a search warrant. So anything that you can give us is very, very helpful. So feel free to give them a call, you can email us, whatever, and we can compile that information. The prosecutor has a great website, and I'll let Mark come up and talk about that. And he can give you some more information about what his office does as well.
Great, thanks, Lorraine. It's great to see such a robust turnout from the Gales Edition neighborhood. So thank you all for coming this evening, especially on a sunny spring evening, to share a couple of hours of your time with us. And so I'm going to be brief in my remarks in hopes of getting everybody back out in the sun before it sets tonight. And what I'll do is start by identifying that Washington as a state has a set of laws that result in crime being treated in a way that doesn't necessarily meet and comport with the expectations of our community. And so, just by way of curiosity, can I see a showing of hands by those people in the room who feel that the laws of the state of Washington adequately reflect your value and belief system? And there's no right or wrong answer to this, but I'm always curious to see
that they do adequately reflect.
whether they do. Do you feel the laws reflect your values and beliefs with regard to the treatment of, say, drug offenders, property offenders, or violent offenders? Are people receiving sentences that you feel are appropriate? Are laws on the books that you feel adequately protect your interests as citizens, for example?
I don't think I'm well enough informed to be able to answer that question.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so we get a mixed response, frankly. And so this group is no separate or different. The reality is that Washington is one of many states. It's evolving and moving in a direction that's resulting in property offenders on the one hand and drug offenders on the other receiving treatment that doesn't necessarily fall in line with our expectations. And what I mean by that is it's very common in the prosecutor's office for us to be contacted in the aftermath of a case resolving and having people question why a person wasn't sent to prison, for example, after their first felony, maybe a Class C property crime felony. And if you look back in our state's history, back say in the 70s and the 80s, it was more common that if a person committed a felony, there was a stiffer punishment. It oftentimes involved incarceration in a jail setting, potentially in a prison setting. As time has passed, our state's population has grown. Cost issues have increased. The state prison system is actually in the process of shrinking. There's several state prisons that have been shut down over the last 4 or 5 years. The state is dealing with a financial crisis, and it's being tasked with funding K-12 education. We've all heard about that through the McCleary decision. It's being tasked with funding mental health
We have other federal court mandates that address safe fish passage, think salmon and steelhead, endangered or threatened species. And so the legislature is really torn in trying to find the money necessary to fund all of these different projects. Transportation is another huge cost driver for our state. And so at the end of the process, we don't have a lot of extra monies left over. We're not expanding the number of prisons. We're shrinking them. The number of bed spaces are limited. And so the laws are evolving in a direction that allows for our state prison bed spaces to be available for violent offenders, which speaks to a good use of our prison system, because if people are violent, we want to see them housed in prison to keep everyone else safe. But that means that property and drug offenders are being directed into alternate dispositions, maybe county jail settings, maybe they're being released on community supervision, they're being ordered to perform community service work or pay fines and legal financial obligations. When people are victimized by crime, I like to remind them that you cannot rely on the system to make you whole. You're never going to be put back into the same position. You're always going to have that sense of being victimized. You may not be compensated for restitution in order to be paid to you timely. It may take years and years and years for that to happen. The accountability that you want to see meted out may not occur. And so that really speaks to the critical importance of applying the tools that they preach through Neighborhood Watch, locking your doors, keeping your lights on, even when you're home. This is all a way through which you can reduce the chance of having yourself be victimized by crime. And it touches everyone. Just last night we were in this room and I was reciting the fact that I have a number of employees who work in your county prosecutor's office, deputy prosecutors and staffers. They've been victimized through residential burglaries. They've had their homes broken into, their property taken, simple theft, car prowls that happened to my office manager just recently. And since yesterday and prior to tonight's event, I learned that one of my legal assistants had their car set on fire, of all things. So they awoke early this morning to a knock by the fire department alerting them that their 2015 vehicle was a ball of fire on the street. So that's an arson, and that's being looked into. My point is that you can do everything right, you can still be victimized by crime, but let's see if we can help you reduce the chances of that happening. Because ultimately, the best thing we can do is prevent you from even coming into the system as a victim. We'll do everything we can for you, but again, we're not going to be able to put you into the same position you were in prior to crime occurring. Thanks.
So does Neighborhood Watch work? That's one of the questions that we have every so often. And in fact, there was a study back in the 70s in Seattle. So I thought that was kind of great. It was one of the first studies done to evaluate whether Neighborhood Watch was effective. And in fact, they found it was highly effective. And what we've done since then is we have a wonderful system that we purchased several years ago, and Port Angeles Police Department and School Police Department also utilize that, where it allows us to look at all of our crime statistics, and it's called Command Central for the agency use and crimereports.com for your use. So it's really a great tool to allow us to see what's happening in the county. On a daily basis, we get it updated. So it's wonderful. We can look at that and see, is our crime going up? Is it going down? You know, where are we having problems? And that's all incumbent upon you reporting crimes if they do happen. And so what we've done is we've looked at neighborhoods where we've gone and we've done these meetings, we've talked to people, and primarily that is a result of them having been victimized. A neighborhood will call us and say, boy, we've had a tremendous amount of property crime. For an example, we have Critter Country Trail. And Critter Country Trail, nice neighborhood, nice street, but they would have a dope house behind them. So the people that would go to the dope house, coming and going, would then go down the street and they would rip everybody off. So they were really frustrated. They had us come out. We did a nice meeting. We said, look, this is how you need to work for, together as a team and with us so that you can reduce your crime. You need to pay attention. And when you see suspicious people walking or driving down your street, you need to step out. And as Al said, take your phone out, take a photo of them or video if you can, or if you would like to. And if nothing else, call us so that our deputies can come out and contact these people and find out what the problem is, if they have an issue or whatever. It's a dead-end street. They knew the people that lived on that street. They knew the people that didn't belong on that street. And we said, lock your stuff up, put out lights, put a neighborhood watch sign at the beginning of your street. Sure enough, they did all of that. They were great, boy, they were very motivated. So when they'd find somebody that they knew didn't belong on their street, they'd walk out and say, hey, can I help you? You know, do you need any help? What's your problem? And boy, these people were like, oh, you know, turn around and take off. Well, in 6 months, their crime went to nothing, 0. Because it was an unfriendly environment for the criminals. And it was excellent for these people that lived on the street. They didn't have to do a tremendous amount, but what they did was extremely effective for their area. And this is not the only one. We've looked at several different neighborhoods that we have worked with, and it's been the same result. Because, as Al said, we have one jail, they all go to the same place, they all talk about where is a good neighborhood to hit, and where's a bad neighborhood to hit. And you want to be the bad neighborhood to hit because they'll get caught, you're gonna call, you're gonna let us know that they're out there, and they're gonna get contacted. And they don't want contact. They don't even want to go to jail for a night. They may not go to prison, they may not have a chance of going to prison because they haven't risen to that level, but they don't even want to go to our jail for one night because it's inconvenient. We take all their stuff. You know, if they have dope on them, that's gone. Alcohol on them, that's gone. You know, it's very inconvenient. They do not want that. So they will go somewhere where it's more friendly to them, where it's easier pickings. So that's what we're here tonight to talk to you about. Also, like the sheriff said, our person crimes, thankfully, and as the chief said, are very low in this county. This is all of Clallam County. Person crimes, year-over-year comparison for the last couple of years, 2014 to 2015. And I have looked at misdemeanor assaults. There's some threats and harassments, felony assaults, robberies, rapes, and homicide down at the bottom. This is for a pretty large county, you know, 77,000 people. It's a long county. It's a lot of area to cover. A lot of people here, and our person crimes are very, very low. So we're very happy about that. People like to live here. You know, people retire here on purpose. So yeah, that's a good thing. And so we want to keep it that way. Our property crimes are higher than we would like. So that's what we're going to focus on because that's the focus of what we're doing here tonight. Vehicle prowls, huge increase from 2014 to 2015 in the county. Huge increase. Well, it's hard to say just 1 year over year as to why exactly that might have occurred, whether it's a prolific vehicle prowler is out of jail and he then went and did a whole lot of them, which that happens. We can have one guy that will go out and commit, I don't know, by the time he's caught, what do you think, Sheriff, 100 vehicle prowls he could have committed easily.
On the low end.
They're right, I mean, a lot, just one person. So
The problem is it's just such easy picking.
Right.
When you walk down rows and rows of cars and they're unlocked or they're having their, you know, valuables are in full view. So.
Right, and they have a goal. They have goals like we have goals. Our goal is to, you know, go to work and do something productive during the day. And we've had them tell our detectives and our deputies their goal is to commit so many vehicle prowls a night because it keeps them in drugs. Everybody's got to have a goal. That's their goal. We had one guy say 10 vehicle prowls a night would keep him in the drugs he needed. That's it. 10 vehicle prowls a night. So
successful. You
yes.
might have to test 100 cars to get 10 that are unlocked.
And it's not hard, as the sheriff said, you go into a neighborhood, I mean, you guys are fairly close together. It wouldn't take much to go through and hit 20, 30 cars a night. We've had neighborhood clusters that we get 20 reports in a night that, you know, people call and say, hey, my car was rifled through, that type of thing. So.
Low risk too.
Oh, sure. You know, I mean, it's usually at night, you know, people aren't looking and it's pretty dark in this county. So a lot easier to do a vehicle prowl than it is to do a lot of other things. So that's a crime that, fortunately, though, it's very easy to prevent for the most part. So what I looked at was, what did we have in the last 12 months? And we had 808 vehicle prowls in the last 12 months in Clallam County. And this is your area where you guys live. So I just zoomed in on it, and these are all theft from vehicles. That's why it says TV on it. And it shows you where they were in your area for the last 12 months. So you can see they're sort of, you know, everywhere. And where they have folders down here, that's multiple, but the same residence. So there's a lot of vehicle prowls out there.
Of course, those are just the reported ones.
These are just the reported ones. Good job. Yes, that's an excellent statement to make because we do find when we give these meetings, a lot of people will say, well, you know, my vehicle was rifled through, but not much was taken, so I didn't bother calling it in. Well, unfortunately, you're not doing anybody any favors when you do that because we have no idea that your vehicle got hit. Absolutely no idea if you don't tell us. So it doesn't make it onto our map. It doesn't allow our deputies to then find out, or our officers to find out that we have somebody that's hitting a particular neighborhood pretty prolifically. And in fact, if they catch this person, it would be really nice to be able to hit them with 20 vehicle prowls instead of 2, because 18 people didn't bother calling it in. So please do yourselves and us a favor, and if you are a victim of a crime, even if you think it's not very big, please call it in, because we need to know that information. So locking your doors at all time, we keep talking about that, but it's amazing how easy it is to forget. I had a friend who said that her husband came home from work, he was really tired, they almost always lock their doors, he had $800 in cash in the wallet in the glove compartment, didn't lock the door that night. Guess what, right? Vehicle prowled, $800 gone. It happens all the time. Not too long ago, I think maybe 3 weeks ago, we had a gentleman who had his truck in the driveway, so he probably figured it was safe, you know, a rural area, and he had his truck in his driveway. Bunch of firearms in it, all kinds of stuff. Keys in the truck. Truck gone, firearms gone, you know, stuff gone. So even though it's in your driveway, it's not particularly safe, so you have to lock it up. Parking lighted areas. If you do leave something that's visible, as the sheriff said, you know, if they see something like a purse or a wallet or a laptop or something that looks like they could convert it to cash very easily, they will take the risk to break your window, because then it's worth it. You know, they kind of do a cost-benefit risk analysis, yeah, in their little mind. I know, they have goals, they do these things, and they figure, well, it's worth it. You know, if they know they can get something, if you've got a purse or a wallet or a gun or something they can see that they can easily get, so they'll bust your window for that. So don't leave it where they can see it. If you're going hiking or you're going somewhere and you'd like to leave your purse, your wallet, or something in your car, put it in your trunk. So at least it's not visible. Out of sight, out of mind. Excellent theory. Do not leave your garage remote in the car. Bruce will give some good information about how they have worked on that, which is great, because you don't think about that, but you know, your garage remote is access to your house. So if it's in your driveway and your car is in there and they've got your remote, they can just walk into your house. Don't leave your keys in your car. It is unbelievable how many people still do that, as I just pointed out that one example. Happens all the time, and that's how they steal cars. Because the cars these days, I mean, my gosh, you can't hotwire them anymore. They're all electronic, and so the cars that get stolen are really, really old cars that maybe they can't have the keys that they can get into, or they just had the keys in the car, which is most of the time. So burglaries, 518 in the last 12 months. So that's a lot of burglaries, particularly if you've been burglarized. Has anybody been burglarized in this house, in this room? Nobody's been the victim of a burglary?
Knock on wood.
Good. Yes, knock on wood. Oh my God. You're like, oh, burglary. So that's a lot of burglaries. And as you can see in your area, you had a burglary, and I'm not sure exactly where that spot is over there, but over off of 6th and over off of 5th. And this was 2 in the same location. So it happens all over the place. And a burglary is somebody entering a building, whether it's your residence or an outbuilding or commercial building, to commit a crime. So they could walk into a house and assault somebody, and that's a burglary and assault. They walk into a house or an outbuilding and steal something, that's a burglary and a theft. So that's how they classify it.
There's 2 colors. What?
Oh, this is the folders are the different colors, and that's just multiple burglaries at the same location. So if you double click on that, and I'll show you a little bit on crimereports.com, you can double click on that and actually see what exactly it was. So our property crimes in Clallam County, this is year-over-year property crimes, and you can see 2015 had less thefts like that. The vehicle prowls are up, obviously. The burglaries are about the same as the year before, pretty consistent. And then the auto thefts, a bit higher, 99 in 2014 and 119 in 2015. And those auto thefts are almost all primarily keys left in the car. So pretty preventable crimes. Now this is everything that was reported in Clallam County this month. 865 reported crimes. And so this is your area this month, in March. So somebody just got burglarized right here.
Yeah, those 2 burglaries looked like they were on the last map.
Yeah, so it's definitely, you know, concern. Obviously, look at up there to the upper left here in Harborcrest. Had some things going on. So what do you do to prevent a burglary? You need to lock your doors and windows at all times. And it is a shame that during the day when you're home that you should lock your doors and windows. But realistically, most burglaries occur during the day because they assume that you're off at work or shopping or at church. And so they're going to come up to your house and they're going to knock on your door, and they'll come up with some flimsy excuse if you answer the door. If you don't answer the door, they'll go around and they'll check. They'll check windows, they'll knock on things, and then they'll make entry if you're not there. And especially if you leave your doors or windows unlocked. I had this lady came in, and it was so sad because she went away to the store at noon, lives off Lots Gazelle, lives right on the road. I mean, people see her house, so she didn't think about it. And she left a window, a bathroom window unlocked. It's a nice day out. And she comes back 45 minutes later, she sees a truck in her driveway. She thought, well, maybe they broke down. You know, I don't know. You know, she figured, what would she think? She wouldn't think it was anybody doing anything bad. It's the middle of the day and people can see. So she calls her garage door opener. Garage door opens up, and two guys run out with pillowcases in their hands. And thank goodness she hadn't gotten out of her car. She calls 911. They yell at her, but they don't do anything to her, and then they take off. Well, they had gone into her house through that window, and they'd stolen all of her heirloom jewelry. So it was stuff she could never replace. You know, it was very sad. She was very upset. And who would think, you know, right in the middle of the day that they would have the nerve to do that? But they do. They have the nerve to do that. So don't let them make entry very easily, and always keep on guard and keep alert. Lighting your home is pretty simple and inexpensive. Bless you. Inexpensive these days because of solar. So I would highly recommend, it is very dark here, to have motion detector lighting, have solar lighting. Anything that you can do to light up your area is wonderful. They don't like light. Now they have actual video cameras in motion detector lights that you know, will activate.
Cameras are getting cheap and plentiful. Would you recommend putting the camera in?
Oh, absolutely, yes. This amazing how cheap you can get a surveillance system for now. And you can get game cameras. You guys know what game cameras are? They capture deer normally and stuff. Well, you can get them to capture people, wildlife as well. Now, we've had a lot of burglaries and thefts solved by pictures, beautiful pictures on these game cameras. And they are very inexpensive, usually about $100. Just make sure you turn the flash off. You don't want them to know you have a game camera. And you can put it at the end of your driveway or wherever it's convenient for you. Those things are excellent. Installing alarm systems, please, if you do an alarm system, make sure it's audible. And it truly does make a huge difference when there's noise. If you have a silent alarm, it does absolutely nothing for you, because by the time the officers get there, the dispatcher will have called you to find out if you accidentally set off your alarm. They'll call the alarm company, then they'll finally call the officer or the deputy to come out and respond. And by this time, they are long gone. If you have an audible alarm, they might break your window or break your door, which is what sets it off, but then they're going to leave. They do not want anybody seeing them or noticing them. They're not going to stay around. As an example, a friend of mine, we moved down here because they did. Wonderful people. Never had anything happen to them. And they live off of Hooker Road. And they went to church, come back, and their back door is just busted open. And they had stuff stolen out of their house that they found months later. They would find things that were missing. So he installed an audible alarm system, and not kidding, the same people came back maybe a month later, and they kicked the back door, audible alarm system went off, and they took off. So they didn't lose anything again, but they did, you know, have some damage. But that just gives you a point about how effective audible alarms can be. And they live out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they don't even have a close neighbor, but that audible alarm is enough to get rid of those guys. Planting prickly shrubs under the windows seems silly, but I'm not kidding you, they don't want to be hurt. These people are not exactly the energy, you know, people that are real motivated. They want to do things simple, they don't want to get hurt, so things that will keep them from accessing your house are excellent. Not leaving your garage door open is really important. We see that all the time. You know, people will just forget, you know, go to bed. Like Al said, it's a habit you kind of have to get into, checking everything, because it is an open access to a lot of stuff you have. They might just go in and steal your tools, but that's a lot of money, and you don't want them to go do that. We talked about surveillance systems, having a trusted neighbor watch your house when you're on vacation. That's very important, because we do have vacation check, which is great. You can call dispatch and say, hey, I'm going to be gone from this date to this date, and this is my telephone number for contact, and these people will be at my house, or there's nobody supposed to be at my house, and Bruce will talk to you about the fact that they have a great vacation check where the volunteers will go out and actually look at the homes that have called in. But if you have a neighbor that you can trust to call when somebody is at your house that shouldn't be, that's the most effective thing that you can do. We had a neighborhood up on Highland Heights that they had a neighborhood watch meeting, because nice clustered neighborhood, everybody lives fairly close to each other, really nice place, right up off, you know, close to Bell Hill. And for a couple of days, everybody saw this white van parked on the street, just sitting there. It didn't belong to the neighborhood, wasn't anybody's friend or relative or anything. Nobody said a word. Nobody called the police to say, hey, you know, it's kind of weird, this van's there, can you go check it out? Nobody. So after a couple of days of watching, they determined this one house was empty. They went in, they backed up, and they cleaned them out. Cleaned them out. So they came back from vacation, their house was empty. Oh, it was terrible. So the Harborcrest had a neighborhood watch meeting. Now they know to watch out for each other. But it was a shame because that was so preventable. If they had called, you know that a deputy or an officer would have gone out there, checked them out, figured out what was going on, and they would have been gone. So that's all it takes, is somebody to be aware. Stopping mail and newspaper delivery, pretty common, everybody knows that. Installing these neighborhood watch signs, those are very effective. These neighborhood watch signs are very inexpensive. Port Angeles Police Department has some that they can give out to people that live in the city. We have a small stock that you can purchase. We have 18 by 24, the same big signs like that for $35. And posting one of those at the entrance to your neighborhood, you know, whatever entrances you have, actually does work really well. And it's a great preventative because they understand that those neighborhoods are organized. We have done a great job in this county from Diamond Point to Nia Bay, educating our residents on neighborhood watch. And because it's been so effective and these criminals are getting caught when they go into our neighborhood watch areas, they know that those signs mean something. And that's excellent. Because really, you have won the war if they don't come into your neighborhood. If they don't go to your house, you have won it. You don't have to worry about it. So that's what we're here for, is to teach you how to make sure that you don't ever have to worry about them ever even coming down your street. And that's an excellent thing. Leads Online is a wonderful program that we use in the county to have all of the things that are on reported to all of law enforcement. And because we use Leads Online, they allow us to have this database for all of our residents. It's free. It's called Reported. And you can establish an account. It's your account. Nobody else has access to it. And you can upload all of your information about your valuables. Your serial numbers, you can upload photographs. Your jewelry is very hard to identify if you just tell us that your gold ring was stolen. Very hard to tell, what does that mean? But if you take a photograph of it, it's on a white sheet of paper with a ruler next to it for scale. If you get it appraised, it's even better, especially if it's a valuable piece of jewelry, because it can mean the difference between getting enough insurance back to recover the loss or actually getting your item back. But when you create this account, you upload that information, it goes into the cloud, it's accessible anytime from anywhere. So even if, God forbid, you had a fire or something, you could go and download a list of all of the things that you owned for your insurance company or for a deputy or an officer, so that you can give them that information like that, the click of a button. And what I tell people is that because this information is excellent, it's kind of a lot of information all at once, you need to really commit as soon as you can to take a day, whether it's this weekend or tomorrow, and do this. Because if you don't, you'll forget. And it will take a while, and maybe or maybe not, you'll document everything. But if you say on Saturday, I'm going to spend an hour or two, and I'm going to go around and take pictures of all my valuables, and I'm going to put it on Reported, or I'm going to put it on a card, and I'm going to put it somewhere safe, you'll do it. And that will make a big difference for you. And then it'll be done, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Have any of these been hacked?
Not that we know of. Yeah, no, it's been a wonderful, secure system that we have. So, and the other thing that we always tell you, and what's really kind of fun to do, and is a really good eye-opener for how safe your place is to go home, maybe tonight after this meeting, and drive up to your house and look at your neighborhood, at your house, and look at how dark it is or how light it is, where you have your weak spots, and then try to break into your house. You be the bad guy. Drive up, get out, and you're the bad guy. How are you going to get into your house? How are you going to get into your car? Is anything, safe? Is it not safe? What can you do to make it safer? And it's really quite an eye-opener, and it will help you realize where you need to increase your security, whether it's through lighting or landscaping, maybe some bushes, right, obstructing a view. You want people to be able to see. So it's a great thing to do, and it's kind of fun to do, so give you a little chore. So deterrence to crime, that's my dog. He's a nice neighborhood watchdog. So see something, say something. Well, the areas, dogs are very effective. If you can't have a dog, you can have those little alarms you can get online, very inexpensive, that go woof, woof, woof when people walk by. Anything that you can do to make them not want to come into your house, that's what you need to do. These are the signs that we have. Bruce has some examples over there. These security cameras and use signs, they're very cheap. You can get them at Co-op and Home Depot for like $2. They don't know if you have a security system or not, and they're very paranoid. There's no problem putting these signs up, and you have to be aware of dog signs. Anything that you can do to make it appear that if they are there to commit a crime, they're going to get caught, or something bad's going to happen to them. So It's a good thing. Signs are great. It's cheap. It's a very, very cheap proactive measure.
I see those camera signs in places where I'm pretty sure there's no cameras, but you just don't know.
You don't know. And when you're high on meth or heroin, you think they're on. So there you go. That's a
Paranoia
good
is a
thing,
big
right?
factor there.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
As far as the neighborhood watch sign, are there restrictions to posting them on a telephone pole or a stop sign, for instance?
Right, you cannot. This county will not allow you to post them on an existing sign pole. The city, Bruce can talk about that in a minute as far as their restrictions or where they allow you to do it. But the city will actually install them for you. Is that correct?
3 of them.
3 of them in your neighborhood?
Yep. And that's why there's 3 free ones here for whoever started this group.
Oh, excellent. So the county used to install them for free, but we have such a successful program, it became too costly for them. So what we have now is we have the signs that you can purchase, and we have instructions for you on how to install them. It doesn't take a whole lot to do the installation, but you cannot put it on an existing county post. So directed patrols, you think, how do we use all this great information that we have in our computer system? What do we do with it? How does it help us help people? This looks like an art project, but what it really is a screenshot of what we have in our database that shows us what's happening when it comes to vehicle prowls. We would like to know if I have got 2 deputies and I've got overtime money and I want to put them out on the street and I want to do some proactive policing, and I've decided vehicle prowls are our #1 big problem today, right? Where am I going to go? When am I going to go? When is it most effective for me to put these guys out? So when I look at this hotspot map, and because it's not live, I can't click into it for you, but it'll give you an idea. I can look and see what days of the week and what times of the day should I have my overtime shift when I'm looking at proactive patrolling for vehicle prowls. In the darker colors, you have a whole lot of them. And this is midnight, right here. A whole lot of vehicle prowls, Saturday. Let's see, this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday. Okay, so this is when we have a lot, and then this is 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is during the week. You see a lot of it's during the week, not too much on the weekend. Isn't that amazing? It's really mostly concentrated during the week, either early morning or late evening for the most part. And we can actually click in there, we can see exactly which neighborhoods have reported this, and we can get a map, and we can figure out, okay, we need to concentrate in Gail's edition tonight, we need to go to Solmar. We've done some directed, proactive policing in these areas before. It's been very effective because it really concentrates some law enforcement in a particular area, and that's what we want. County's really big, and we need to make sure that we allocate our very limited resources very effectively so that we can help you. Crime reports. Have you guys got on crimereports.com? Ah, wow, now you will.
Never heard of most of this stuff.
I know, that's why you're here. Isn't this great? I know, you're going to get an email and the links and all kinds of cool stuff. So crimereports.com is for you. We bought it for you so that you would know as citizens what is happening in your community anytime you want. It's updated every day at 2 o'clock. It's all very current information. And all you'll do is click on there and put in an address up there. And you'll see an address bar. It says Harborcrest, Port Angeles, Washington. You can just put in Port Angeles, Washington. It'll give you a big map and you can narrow it down. And then when you go to advanced search up there on the top, I wish I looked be light, but I don't. You'll get a legend. And this legend will allow you to search based on what you want to see. I want to see everything for the last 3 days. I want to see everything for the last 30 days. You go all the way to 6 months in the past, and you can look at what's happened. You can select for all crimes or just, I want to see only burglaries, whatever. And then when you do that, it will pop up this nice Google Earth map. You'll get these little icons. You double click, and this is what you'll see. And this folder means there's more than one incident. So it's 2 incidents. And the second one was a vehicle stop, and we only put the 100 block, so we don't give out your specific address. So it says 2200 block of East 6th Avenue. And it was a Clallam County Sheriff's case, happened on March 16th, I believe, kind of fuzzy on here. Suspicious person. So somebody called in a suspicious person or vehicle, and they were able to stop it. So that was excellent. So they were able to do a traffic stop on that and see what's going on. Now over here, you've got all different little things. The O is for other. That could be anything from an animal call to an alarm, you know, a lot of miscellaneous types of crimes that we just kind of lump up in the other category. But you can see exactly what that is. Then, where it says show details up there right underneath the address bar, you click on that, we'll give you a view print list. And you can see a whole list of what you saw on that map. So you can just print it out nice and neat. You can see that the crime type over on the left-hand side says community policing, and then it says date and time, March 31st, 100 or 1,000 block, maybe 1,600 block, I can't read it very well, of East Harborcrest Place. There was a PAPD officer that went out, and they did some community-oriented policing out there. Basically what that means is they go out and they do some proactive policing. They're going out and they look into a neighborhood and see what's going on. And that's great, because then you know people are actually going through there. Not a lot of time for a lot of this, but they do it as often as they possibly can, which is great. And if they know that you have an issue, something's been ramping up, maybe you got a dope house that's starting to go, or whatever the particular problem might be, they're going to look at those neighborhoods and they're going to drive around and see if, either by their presence alone negates crime, or they might actually see something, which is rare. I can tell you this, that it's very rare to drive around and actually catch a crime in progress. Wouldn't it be great if it was not rare? So most of the time, having a marked unit deters crime because they'll not do it while the officer's there. But it's a great time to go out and see what's happening in your community. So we have traffic stops, drug call, vehicle stops, community policing. So some pretty good ones over here, and then it tells you exactly what here is. Building check, neighborhood-oriented policing, suspicious person, a drug violation, neighborhood-oriented policing, traffic stop. You get a lot of good proactive policing in your area, which is excellent. We've had a lot of meetings for Gales Edition over the years, and it's been really helpful because I think that we have seen a huge downward trend in a lot of problems that we've had in your area. So that's good. So this is going to be a little test of the emergency broadcast system here as to see whether you've been listening to what I've been saying. So this is the anatomy of a burglary, all right? So this is a place that's right down from where I live. It's right on the intersection of a busy place because it's Caves Road and Woodcock. If you ever driven by here, it's like there's going to be a lavender place or whatever. So you see what it looks like. So the highlights on this is between March 2nd and March 5th over a 3-day period at this residence. It's a shop and weekend residence. People live in Everett. And they had their Jeep stolen, stripped and abandoned, and numerous tools and personal items taken. These people cleaned them out. They were there for several days. These are the bad guys. They were all caught, which is excellent. This guy is the one that we're looking for now. He's still out. He has got a warrant out for his arrest because he's violated once again his conditions of probation. Then his brother's in there, and then there's this guy here is from California, but everybody else is from here. Most of our criminals are all homegrown. So they're not like they're imported from other places. They're people from Clallam County. So what do they have in common? They have a drug habit, all of them. They have extensive criminal histories. They are all but one homegrown. They always say they just need treatment. Devil made me do it. Take no responsibility, right? Isn't that a common thing? I have no responsibility for my actions, so therefore I can do whatever I want. Somewhat, maybe a lot ethically and morally challenged. I know, really shocking, right? And unfortunately, an extremely low probability of becoming productive citizens. It would be really great if they saw the light and then tomorrow they all cleaned up their act. And that'd be awesome. That'd be super great. World peace and all that. But unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen.
So when they get treatment, does that stop them or do they relapse?
Well, it depends on whether they want to or not.
I'll answer
So
that.
we don't have.
It depends on whether they want treatment or not. If they're ordered into treatment as a result of a sentence or something, low probability of success. If they've hit a low point and they truly want to turn their lives around, high probability of success. Overall, I'd say that we look at maybe 20-30% success rate, at least the first time through. So it's not particularly, there's a lot of other competing factors to this. There's mental illness, there's alcohol, there's low life skills, no education. So it's a tough problem. And we could talk a long time for it, but it's the only game in town right now.
Yep. And it would be great if they would just stop it. Right now, what we have to focus on is what can we do as people, because I live here, everybody lives here, what can we do to prevent people from coming onto our property and stealing our stuff? That's the basic thing that we have to worry about right now. So could it have been prevented? This is where you're going to tell me all the stuff you just learned. What would you have done if you owned this place to keep it from being burglarized? And you don't live here, you live in Everett.
I would have lived there.
Okay, you can't put that into the equation. You don't live there. You're only there on the weekends. But look at this place. Does it look like anybody lives there?
No.
No. So is this a pretty easy target? Right? So what could you have done? And keep in mind, this gate only covers that driveway. The rest of the property is all open. I mean, you could just walk around it, drive around it.
Start with some signage.
Right, there's not one sign.
Motion lines.
Yes, there's no lighting. There was no, they have everything now. But it's always out in the back, right? They even have a dog, but thankfully they don't leave the poor dog here while they're gone. They took bring him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no lighting whatsoever. And
Make your neighbors aware of your presence or.
Yeah.
yes,
Make a friend locally.
I know there's actually people that live pretty close over there. I mean, there's a kitty corner house. Nobody knew these people. Nobody had any idea who they were, that they weren't there during the week. I drive by there every day. If I had known that there was nobody that was supposed to be there during the week, I would have called and said, you know, there's a bunch of guys over there in this car, and I don't think they belong there. And the deputies would have been more than happy to come and find out what was going on.
I'd leave a car in the driveway.
That's another good tip, because it really does look like no vehicles there. I mean, they made entry and got the Jeeps from the garage. So there's nothing there that shows that they do have one now. They have a car there now. It looks like there's somebody there all the time. Yes, ma'am?
Is that a locked gate?
Oh, no. I mean, it's not really a gate of anything. It just goes over the driveway, so the whole property's open, you know, just that. It's pretty
Watch when
good.
you keep out relatives.
Yeah, we are to secure
Did they
that.
have lights on timers, anything?
They had nothing. So yeah, lights on timers would be great. Now, I think an audible alarm would have been pretty good for this one, because everybody would have heard it. And it's so obvious. I mean, it's an intersection. So if they had an audible alarm with light going off, somebody would be like, you know, that does not look good. Yes, sir.
They have those fake cameras where you put a battery in. It looks like it's operating, but it doesn't run to the house or anything like that. Would that probably work?
Well, definitely anything that would have made it look like they were being seen. And fake cameras, real cameras, those are excellent because they don't want to be seen. You know, and I'm sure that they scoped out this place for a while. They probably live around there or were going around there and realized that there was nobody there during the week. And there was nothing that looked like it was protected. I mean, there was no camera, fake or real, nothing. Yes, sir. Do you have a question? No?
No, they have apps now. I read a story not long ago where some people were on vacation, their house got broken into, their cameras in the house recorded the guys. You know, the response wasn't fast enough to catch them, but they got some great pictures of the people in their house.
Yes, there's
So, I mean, you
lots.
get a call on your cell phone, somebody's burglarizing your house right now.
Have you guys seen that ring.com?
Ring.com.
Have you seen that? It's really cool. If you go to Costco sometime and just take a peek at it, but it's
$200
like $180. But it's in place of your doorbell. It's a doorbell, but it's got a camera in it. And so I found out about this because we had a neighborhood watch meeting, and about a week later, a gentleman called and said, "Hey Lorraine, you need to tell the people that come to your meeting about this cool thing called ring.com." He said, "I put it on my house, and my wife and I were in California, and his cell phone got a note, you know, that somebody was at his door. And so he talked to the person through this ring.com, you know, doorbell thing.
From California.
Yeah, from California. They had no idea he was in the house, and he was able to communicate. So if it's somebody suspicious, you could say, you know, you need to get off my porch right now, I'm calling the police. They don't know you're not in the house, right? So it takes their picture and the video and it uploads it to the cloud. If you pay $3 a month, it will save it so you can always download it. And bingo, you know, you've got an awesome little tool that helps you know exactly when somebody comes up to your front door, whether you're home or not, whether you're on vacation in Hawaii or who knows, as long as you've got a smartphone or a tablet or something. That's a pretty cool device. I don't know, I think it was a nice little invention that they came up with. So good job, you guys did good, you were listening, that's
Was
excellent.
there anything we missed that you might add?
On this, not really. Basically the signage, the lighting, looking like somebody was home, putting the car in front, having an audible alarm. Really doesn't require a tremendous amount of stuff, but something to keep people from wanting to go in there. This is at an intersection. They knew very well that people would be able to see them. So they had to make an evaluation of how much risk they were willing to take to get in there. And because it was so unprotected, it's very low risk for them, and they can figure that out. You know, there is nothing that's going to record, no lights are going to go off, no alarms are going to go off, and obviously nobody knew these people. So, definitely
You
something.
pull up there in the middle of the day and act like you belong there, nobody's gonna
Nobody's
question
gonna,
you.
right, exactly, exactly.
One thing too is once they're in, there's past the doors, you can't really see them from the street.
Exactly.
A car in
Yeah.
the driveway.
And if there's nothing going on, how do you know that they weren't supposed to be there?
Do you have any input to the value of motion detecting light at night versus just having lights on outside?
Well, there's two trains of thought on that. If you can afford to have the lights on all night and it's all lit up, that's good because they really don't want to have any light. The other thought is on a motion detector, you're not having to spend money all night long for it to go on, only when something goes off. And it's sort of a shock value.
Yep.
You know, if they walk up and all of a sudden, boom, light comes on, right? That seems to be a pretty effective method of them going, oh, did somebody just turn on the light? Or is it just a motion detector light that's activated when I cross the beam? So either way, I think you're good. I would definitely, as far as our outbuildings go, we put the motion detector light on. We don't need it lighting it up all night long. I think the neighbors get kind of torqued about that sometimes because they like to see the stars and stuff, you know? I'm from a city, so to see it so dark here all the time is really weird, but it's kind of cool when you see the stars. But the motion detector lights are good for that because you can have it out on your outbuilding somewhere, you know, that's, people shouldn't be around, but if they cross that beam, you know, that light's gonna go off and you should be able to figure out what's going on. Yes, ma'am?
I am my own light for the whole neighborhood, and it did cost us quite a bit, and then what I had done is put LED, the big barn
there you go.
LEDs in, and cut my cost by $80 a month.
Yes, LEDs are awesome.
So, and also the outer buildings, Costco has the LED sensor light now,
Good.
so it will not cost all that much money.
It's amazing how LEDs cut the cost of
Yeah, it's
energy
a
bills.
tremendous amount.
Yes.
And Costco also has solar-powered LEDs that are pretty good for about $35 too.
Yeah, that's not bad. I like the light it up like a runway down my driveway. It's pretty, the solar lights
It's
are
actually a
pretty good.
motion detecting light though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
pretty bright, yeah.
nice. Yes, I do the solar, you know, plant along the driveway, and it is like a little runway at night. And so you can see everything with those little solar lights, and it doesn't cost you a dime.
Yeah, I was
So.
going to stay away from that.
Reporting suspicious activity, installing your cameras, documenting your serial numbers. One of the things that people get really upset about is they get their weed eater stolen or tools, and there's really no serial number on those things. And our guys, when they go to a dope house and they see a whole bunch of this equipment there, there's no way to identify it. So what can you do to get your stuff back, or that what we can use to prosecute these people, is put your driver's license in Sharpie on the items that don't have serial numbers. So if you just take a black Sharpie this weekend and go out to all your tools and all your valuables and write your Washington State driver's license number on it, that is an excellent identifier. They can't use it to steal your identity, but when we find that, we can run it and find out exactly who you are, call you and say, is so-and-so supposed to have your weed eater right now? And you say, that was stolen 2 months ago, and we might be able to get it back for you, charge this person with theft or burglary. And that would be really nice to do, because we auction off probably 90% of all of our recovered items are gone. They get auctioned off, pennies on the dollar, to whoever, because there's no way to know who it belongs to. And what a shame. You know, you should be able to get your stuff back if it gets stolen. A lot of times with jewelry, it's unfortunate, they do squish it all up and turn it into scrap. So if you do have your jewelry stolen, it's going to be pretty tough to get it back, because they don't have to then report it to Leads Online as anything, because it's scrap, right? And so they get $10 for your $1,000 worth of jewelry. So it's we do advise, you know, definitely your heirloom jewelry, anything really nice, you should put it into the safety deposit box, or Bruce has a really good technique for hiding it, so that's great. And starting a neighborhood watch program, a lot of people tell me, well, how do I do that? And I say, you've done it, because it's not like the old days where you have to have a block captain and people have to go around and every few months check in. We are all technologically proficient now. I mean, it's pretty high zoot. We're able to email you after this meeting with all this information. You can go on nextdoor.com and establish a neighborhood on there. Information through our Facebook page, through our website. So you are a neighborhood watch just by the, you know, coming here. It establishes you. If you would like us to come out to your home and just talk to you and a few neighbors on your street, we're more than happy to do that. We can give some more information out and talk about, you know, what your maybe particular problem on your street is, give you some more ideas. But this is Neighborhood Watch doing an excellent job just by being here. being a good witness. If you see something, if you can, take a picture of it with your cell phone or a video, that's excellent. If not, make sure you write it down, but do it right away because in 5 minutes you forget. I mean, I am terrible. I'll see a license plate and right then I'll know it's EUB 777, and then about 5 minutes later it was at EVUs. So if you write it down right away, get that information down, and you call dispatch, you can give good information so that they know what to look for.
Email it to Lorraine.
That's right. That's right. I get all kinds. It's great. I get all kinds of emails. And
I do it all the time.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I send it off to the deputies and the officers, and they love it. In fact, when we get video or a surveillance photo of a bad guy, whether it's from Walmart or from your game camera, and we don't know who it is, the officers and deputies will email it out to all Clallam law enforcement. That goes to everybody in Clallam County in law enforcement, and the corrections deputies, because they see every single bad guy all the time. It's like a little game, and within 5 minutes they can identify the bad guy from your photo. So it works really, really well. Yes.
You've commented several times, both of you, about confronting people if you don't recognize them or you don't think they belong. Isn't that a little bit risky? I mean,
Well, if you're comfortable doing it. I mean, luckily our people that, run around and do these crimes, they're not, tending towards confrontation. They just want, oh my God, I'm gonna get the hell out of here, so I don't want anybody to look at me. I don't want anybody to talk to me because I'm not up to any good. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you don't have to. I mean, obviously it's whether you feel comfortable or not. But if nothing else, just coming out and looking at them, helps a lot because nobody likes to be looked at. Yeah, so that's a really good thing to do. And it's like, what are you doing here?
But you're not setting yourself up for retribution. The guy, I'm gonna remember you caused me trouble.
Yeah, we don't see that. Yes, sir.
Speak to that briefly. We're very fortunate is that I have not heard of a confrontation which turned violent. Now, can I guarantee that it'll never happen? No. But the approach that most people take is you see someone, you just go very politely, hi, I don't recognize you. Can I help you? Are you looking for something? And kind of take it from there. Usually you'll see that they scurry away. If it's a little bit more suspicious and you don't feel comfortable and they look at you, hold your cell phone up like you're taking a picture. That's all you need to do. And I've never heard any reaction to that other than they scurry away.
Yeah, Coy did that to somebody recently. She was high on something apparently, and rather than being confrontational, she was kind of befuddled by the whole incident, I think is the way you put it, huh?
Right. I mean, the one good part about drugs is their minds are so messed up that you don't really see a lot of reaction, more of a, there you go, or whatever.
Violence is rare then.
Yes. Yeah, we're very lucky in that regard. We haven't seen that, so that's great. But if you're not comfortable, it's no big deal. Like the sheriff said, just, take a picture, put your cell phone out, and just call us. That's really the big key. Please call us and let us know. We're happy to come out and actually talk to them. That's what officers and deputies are trained to do. We're happy to do it. If they are totally legit, normal people, they just happen to be out for a walk, they're happy to see us. We don't have any problem. They're like, oh, that's good. Somebody's checking out the neighborhood and making sure we're okay. If, in fact, it's somebody that's up to no good, they don't want us contacting them, and they will come up with some flimsy story, and they'll know they're being watched, and they're going to get out of there. So it's, an excellent thing to do. Click, click. Oh, my clicker stopped working. Isn't that terrible? Click. I know my little technological thing has broken down on me. So Bruce, I'm going to have you get up next and talk about all the cool things that you have done. Bruce has done an amazing amount of work. He's a retired nurse, so he put all of his energy into being a crime prevention guy. So give him all your good tips.
Thanks for everybody showing up here. I know she threw a couple things at me that I wasn't really going to talk about. But those that are in the city at the end of, what is it, Harborcrest? Harborcrest. Our neighborhood watch, or I should say our volunteers, I'm being one of them, you come to the police station, you fill out your form saying I'm going to be gone from this date to this date, and these are the cars that should be there, these are the people that have keys, this is who's feeding my cat, that kind of stuff, and the contact numbers. And we'll come by a couple times a week. Now, were we going to find somebody in your house? Maybe for this guy that had his house broke into, we would have. I mean, we'd have came by and says, there's not supposed to be any car here. And I would have called right away. And the police or sheriffs would have showed up and grabbed them. So yeah, you just fill it out. I've had packages on their porches and they're gone for 2 more months. So I'll call them up and say, I don't have a number to call locally, but you have a package. And the next time I went by, it was gone. So I'm assuming they got someone to go by there and get it. Now a lot of the other things as far as forgetting to do stuff, and that's probably my big thing. Between my wife and I, we usually remember everything. But then there's the times that I don't. I have an alarm system that's done on the cell phone. I can arm it and disarm it. If I'm driving to Clallam, honey, did you alarm it? I get my phone out and I alarm it from Clallam. I mean, it's really nice. I have aftermarket car alarms from Mobile Music down here. It has a little LED thing on it. See the little lock thing? My car is locked. You know, if I looked at that and the little lock was open, and I have to go click, click, and I know it's not locked. So I just look at it, and I did lock it. And also, well, not on this one, I have another key that is, I have a car that's left outside, and they walk up there, and I did not lock it, and then I poke my little button, and I get in. Well, on my car outside, I have another key that is a remote for the garage door. So and it goes in with my key into the house, so they're not going to poke that, walk into my garage, because that's where my money is. I mean, my wife's got some jewelry and I got some TVs, but tools, stuff like that, I mean, that's like the scrap gold. So that kind of stuff right there, and my garage door, walking away, driving away, come back from Safeway 15, 20 minutes later, and my garage door's open. And I'm right in town, right by the YMCA. Lots of people walking up and down my alley, and it wouldn't take anything for them just to walk in there, grab some stuff, some tools or whatever, and walk off. I got a automatic garage door closer. It just has a little red flag on it. And when it's up, the little eyeball sees it, and it counts down 5 minutes, and beeps a few times, and it closes the door. So even if I'm stupid enough, and I am, my door will shut in 5 minutes. And it beeps and it squawks and it does this half drop thing to alert you in case the kids are there or me, and it shuts it. So a lot of that stuff like that, if I can't remember to lock my doors and I can't do this stuff, and I got all this redundant backup stuff that really helps. And windows, especially for the sliders, I just use PVC pipe in there. If I want to crack it open a little bit to get a breeze in the summertime. It's pretty hard to get a wind in there and grab it without taking the window out, and then that alerts everyone in the house that it's there. We always use radios. I just put my radio on. Knock on the door, you hear a radio blaring, and maybe they can't hear me because they got the stupid radio blaring. Well, I'm not there. That kind of stuff. So it's a lot of, it's kind of like Hollywood. You see all the stuff on the big screen, you think, that really happened. Well, it really didn't happen. And when they come by there, I have the motion detectors, Costco, LEDs, right there, 30 some bucks. And they use 30 watts. And they're 2,137 lumens. I mean, they're bright. And when you walk down, I got 2 of those on my back to the house. You walk down my alley, and it's like Clallam Bay, and someone just broke out of crazy. And and they're out there in the dark, and all of a sudden, you turn a flashlight on somebody, they can't see well, and they just keep on scooting down. And we have others in our neighborhood that put them on there, and so they're going down the alley like this until they get down to the end that doesn't have them, and then they're out there checking the cars. So the motion detecting lights were great. Locking stuff up is the biggest thing. I had someone at the end of my block that's in my group. I've gone around with the flyers and everything and met everybody. And they have between them, they're right across the alley from each other, they have like 8 cars. And I've heard several times, I had someone rifle through all their cars, all their stuff's laying out. My ashtray with the quarters in it was found down by your house and things like that. And after the second time, I says, really locked? No. You think that would stop them? I says, this is like throwing bread out to seagulls. They're going to keep coming back because they know there's 8 cars here that might have something in it, and they just keep coming back and coming back. I said, this is like a rat in the maze. It's going to come back to that spot. I says, lock these things up. You're not losing any windows. You can leave your glove box open, your console open, so if they come up there and look, they don't see anything. and they're not gonna take out the window. As you know, most people would hear a window busting out, they're not, it's not very quiet. The timed lights inside the house, it works great, you just put the little pegs on, and even got the fancier ones, and you can have it come on for 5 minutes, go back off. It's just like you just was turned it on, got a sip of something and turned it back off. Things like that they're cheap, and it all goes into make it look like you're there. The radio's on, and we've heard the stories about the big safes, and the guys get the big safes from Costco. They weigh 400 pounds, and nobody's ever going to do anything with that. Well, it just takes a couple of them, and I've been the dead person drag with a 300-pound dummy, and I'm just by myself. And it just take a couple guys, and they throw it in the back of a pickup truck someone has, and then they find them, as they were telling us several times now, find out in the woods, all beat apart, and all the guns out. So a heavy safe like that doesn't mean anything unless it's bolted to something, and they cannot remove it. Jewelry and stuff like that. My wife's not here tonight, but this thing is a bane of her existence. It's one of these simple things that you put jewelry in. We put our keys to everything around the house in it, and but I tell you, putting this thing in my like that in the bookshelf, in just 2 bookshelves, just what 3 foot, 3 foot 2. I couldn't find this thing. My wife went through it, couldn't find it, and I had stuff behind the door in our walk-in closet. I ended up having to take the hinges off, and I pulled the door off, and I finally got back down there, and I pulled this one out, and there it was, and it was there the whole time. And just the other day, yesterday, I was looking for all this stuff, and I found this bag here with this on the top, and I was looking, this is my wife's one of her books. It was like, this thing fakes me out. It's less than 20 bucks. I think I got it at Amazon. How simple is it? My wife also has a little bit of jewelry, and we already talked about the jewelry and stuff, but I just went out here to any place, and it has a little key holders, and it has a little lock thing for it, and I screwed it to a stud, and she hangs her little necklaces on it and locks it. And it's behind her blouses. It's not something that, the guys are going to go through, oh, this is a pink blouse, maybe it'll fit me. They don't usually go through that kind of stuff. And it's out of the way, they don't see it. And even if they found it, then they're going to have to go get something to beat it off the wall to take it with them. So just make it difficult. Of course, the alarm systems, I have a national brand, but there's a couple local guys that do it. We really would like to get the cell phone type, because the other type, unless you have 2 lines coming into your house, they can, if it's going off, they just go over and pick your phone up and it disconnects the whole thing. You have to have a separate line strung into the house. You do the cell phone thing, it'll alert you. They can beat it off the wall or something that still goes through to the company, and you can get them. They don't even have to go with the big names. They have other ones that you can set up yourself. It's all wireless, and you can put the cameras on it, automatically alert you and stuff like that. It's not a ton of money, Stopping your mail is a big thing, and having a locked mailbox. Swain sells them, simple keyed ones. I got one that actually has a password on it that you punch in, and you can have, I'm guessing, several weeks worth of mail in there, and nobody can get into it. It's bulletproof, it's in a concrete pole, it has the one-way screws on it so you can't unscrew it. And I suppose if you hooked onto it with a truck, you could haul it off. That'd be about it. But if someone's going down, and we hear about it all the time, about piles of mail found, up in Blue Mountain Road or something like that. They're going by in the middle of the night, grabbing all this mail, and they just throw it in their bag, and then they go out in Timbuktu and go through the mail and then throw it out there on the side and take out what they want, especially around Christmas when everybody's sending the gift cards and the $20 and that kind of stuff.
They'll do that in the middle of the day. It only takes a second to open a mailbox as you walk by and grab anything in there.
Real easy. And and I go around, I don't know how many got my flyers out there. I walked around in that neighborhood out there and put the flyers out, and some of the screen doors are, the door's open, the screen's open. It's pretty simple, and I don't look real suspicious, I guess, going around like this, but I've seen garage doors open. I do alleys, just patrolling as a volunteer. and I'll find garage doors wide open. Usually I'll go around the other side, knock on the door. Hey, you guys working in there or just leaving it open? Or usually there's nobody around. That kind of stuff just makes it easy for them. And I just got one of those scribing pens to put down my license number on my tools. You know, it just vibrates and puts them in there. You know, otherwise, I suppose you could probably wipe off, mark all pens and stuff like that. And take them, you know, and the valuables and pictures and put it online like I did. And that's kind of it. Just make yourself place look really not welcome to them. I actually had somebody really questionable in my neighborhood that had been there for 6, 8 years. Nice enough, wave at me and stuff. But there was cars and people coming in there day and night. You know, I don't know too many people that come visit it, you know, 3:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I went over there with my packet that you guys got there. It says, hey, we got a neighborhood watch. You're in it, welcome. And he made some comment about one of his cars getting ripped off or something. And I says, I can put my camera on your back here. And I can get a picture of everything coming and going. You know, you want me to, just let me know. And then a couple weeks later, I got 2 of these signs. These are the ones we put up, they're reflective. I put it on a 4x4 post. It's kitty corner across from the alley from their house, and a month later they moved. Now, it might have been a coincidence, but I was very nice to them. I never was accusative. I just said, this is what we're going to do for all of us. I reached out to my neighbors, you know, that people that have been there for 20 years, and that's how we knew each other, you know, basically just waving. And now they have my number, I have their number, and they call me up if I leave my garage door open. They don't get one of those. But, you know, they'll call me up, I'll call them up if I see something odd, and that's...
I'll turn it back on.
Talking about the, you know, a professional burglar, of which there are a few, of which we have none. They know all the tricks.
Okay.
And trust me, the heroin addicts, they don't take the time and effort, they don't watch YouTube, they don't have the attention.
I feel better. Thank you.
Some of that stuff, like making your tools identifiable, that's probably a deterrent, because they don't want anything that's gonna tie them to the
Well,
crime.
there are stickers you can get that it says something like that all the equipment has been marked and put into a system, so they look at it now, I'm gonna get caught, or, you know, the pawn shop or wherever their seller to is gonna, I don't want that stuff, you know, get it out of here.
Right.
Thank you, Bruce.
And if you want to know any information more about this stuff, I have the Neighborhood Watch Port Angeles on Facebook. That's what I started, and I have pretty much everything. All the gadgets I've used around the house, I have the names of them there, instead of bullets, this or whatever.
You said the signs were available to the Crest Haven, but
Yeah,
what
I
about
don't know,
those?
who was
of
it that
us-
started this?
There's a place online you can get them too.
Yeah,
That's
well,
where
this-
I got ours
This here is stop signs and more. It's reflective. So at nighttime, it does light up, just like stop signs. These here are painted, and Chief of Police wanted me to give whoever is in
Glenn, I think.
the,
You started this, got this rolling, right?
Oh, well, not really.
Well, if he doesn't want, I'll blame it.
well, anyway, these 3 signs go to your neighborhood. You just have to contact the city, and they will come out and look at what's existing. Now, she was asking, where can you put them up? In the city, from what I know, in my neighborhood, which was a couple months ago, we have 12 signs put up. And after that, they limited it to 3.
But we're not city.
Because
We're not.
well, the ones on the end of are in the city.
Harborcrest is.
And that's where the city people will. Now, the county
We'll help you out with our public roads, I mean, our roads. department.
The biggest thing is prevention in your house. Be observant, write down everything you can remember about anything, and get a hold of them.
Yeah, and the signage is great. We do have some of the 18 by 24 signs for the county residents. They're $35 each, no shipping, no nothing, and they're available right now. And we even have the dispatch number on those signs. And we get an instruction sheet to use, so you know how to put it up. It's pretty simple, and really it's the deterrent factor. Not having them come into your neighborhood, not having them come down your street, not having them come into your home. That's really the key here. And we haven't touched on scams, but just a quick note, if you get a phone call from the IRS, it's not really the IRS. So I don't know if anybody's gotten those phone calls, but everybody has been hit by a phone scam of one type or another. All you do is just hang up or don't answer the phone. There's really nothing anybody can do about those scammers. They're from another country. Even if they have a telephone number on there, it's fake. You can go on to Federal Trade Commission's website. They have a consumer alert, and they even have an online reporting system that you can online report a scam. And it does have some effect on some of the big scammers in the U.S. But most of the time, these people are from out of the country, and there's innumerable scams out there. You can get a whole list of them on that Federal Trade Commission website as to all the new scams that are out and about, so if you're interested.
I got an email like that, and I looked for the
Yes, sir.
source, it was China.
Okay, I love it. We put out a whole lot of information. You'll get a review of it in both email and in the packets. But what I want to leave you with is, first of all, make no mistake about the fact that we are serious about property crime, and we're not trying to have you do our job. If you're the victim of a property crime, we want you to call it and report it. If you can help us using technology, maybe a picture, maybe a fingerprint or something, we stand a pretty good chance of finding and arresting the perp. If we don't have any physical evidence at all, other than maybe the property showing up in a pawn shop, not very likely that we'll solve it. But I just want to assure you, we want you to report it, we want to keep the numbers, and we will, and as the prosecutor will also aggressively prosecute these crimes to the full extent of what we can do. Now there's a shift, it's a cultural shift, that we're in a bit of a transition. The idea is that we don't want to put these burglars and drug users in prison as much as we want, because let's face it, we put them in prison, they're going to get out. You're not going to put them in for life, and chances are they're going to come out a better criminal, and they're going to keep doing what they're doing. The recidivism rate in prison is ridiculously high. It's like 60% after 5 years of being out. So I kind of get this. What we're looking for is to keep them in a local jail serving 6 months to a year, and then put them in an accountable program that is run by the Department of Corrections within our community with swift and certain sanctions. Now, we're not quite there yet, and it's going to be, it says it's going to be a transition, and nobody's really figured out how this is going to get paid for. But that's the direction we're headed. So keep in mind, we're there for you. Lorraine alluded to something before I got to be sheriff. I was a patrol deputy and I was a sergeant. I did some interesting research. My guys are out on the road all the time. But the chances of in a rural area of a patrol officer who's driving his car around all the time of coming upon a felony in progress and interrupting it and making an arrest, it occurs once every 20 years in your career. Now, the bad guys don't know that. And when they see, and you notice my patrol cars glow in the dark. They have all this reflective tape. When a dirtbag sees a cruiser going through a neighborhood and he's hiding in the bushes, he doesn't know why it's there. And chances are that's going to scare him away. But we don't know that, you don't know that. So it's not that I'm going to tell, it doesn't make sense because of that information that we now just keep the patrol cars locked up in the compound, kind of like firefighters. No, they're still going to be out there. Okay, did I miss anything? Any last questions, prosecutor?
Nope, you have a question?
Could you address a couple, there's at least 4 drug houses in Gills Edition I know of. I can give you the names and addresses if you want. There's junkyards down there. We have Jensen Gray out of there, and now she's back and it's worse than ever because there's no fence.
Jensen Gray, that's going to be a life, until she dies, unfortunately the law is on her side with what she's doing. I can't help that. I wish I could. I expect that, and my God, I can't believe she's still alive. I mean, she's been basically homeless all these years, but at any rate, she's going to have to die. Okay, it takes care of that. The other drug houses we're well aware of. Unfortunately, and the good news is, other than the fact that there's this constant traffic and people walking around, Gales Edition, the crime rate, as you saw the numbers there, has gone down significantly from what it was. We work on the drug houses. It's kind of like whack-a-mole. We drive them out of one house, they'll go 3 houses down. A lot of what happens in the Gales Edition is you have a lot of rentals and you have a lot of what I call enablers. Folks live across the street from you. By the way, they've moved out finally, haven't they? Didn't the lady die?
I think so.
Yes.
Oh, it's across, yeah.
Yeah, right across your.
Yeah, but they're still living there.
Well,
Yeah,
now
they
you
brought
got
in a new
Brandon
trailer.
Zebo in there.
Oh, God, don't even mention his name. I got it, but.
They don't like it when you follow them around the neighborhood in your own vehicle either.
Do it.
I have.
Yeah, well, great.
Huh,
Okay,
I
so
said the stuff to her.
I would, you know, we can talk those things offline, but I can't give you any answers right now to that. We know about them. My patrol deputies that are out there know about every one of them. It's a fine line, and unfortunately, because of our ambivalence that we have, particularly starting with marijuana and other drugs, it's really hard. You can see a drug deal and call us. You know it. You saw the money change hands, you saw the drugs change hands. That isn't going to lead to anything.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I need to have somebody who's wired, and preferably wired with a camera, by 3 times from one of these people, and then that'll lead to an arrest, which will probably not result in any significant jail time.
It's like a revolving door. They go from one property,
But
drive
don't
to
give
another
up.
one. And then over to another one,
When
then
we
they
get
turn
them
around
on
and go back.
burglaries, that's more serious than the drug deal, and we will. Any other questions?
But we see them coming. I see them. I sit on my porch and I see them with the lawnmower coming down the street, turning right next door to me, going in, coming out without the lawnmower. And the next night, here comes the next guy. He's got a lawnmower coming right in. And we're on 3rd Avenue, East 3rd Avenue. Brandon going right past me.
What are they doing with the lawnmowers?
Well, it's money. I mean, and then all of a sudden you see the truck get loaded up with all the lawnmowers and the bicycles and da-da-da, and
I'd sure
I
like
am
Can you
adjoining.
videotape some of that for me?
Oh, crap.
I mean, here's the problem.
You don't have enough time to watch it all.
Well, but here's the problem with that, is that there aren't a lot of reported stolen lawnmowers.
Right?
There aren't any.
Oh, yeah, they
It
give them a
could
couple
well
pulls,
be.
make sure they fire, and then they go, and
You know
they
what,
come out, and
there's
they never
a lot
walk
of
out.
people that repair lawnmowers, and I'm not suggesting that's what they're doing, but we don't have any crimes to attach to this behavior you're talking about.
That's what Brandon will tell you, they're fixing them.
And he may well be. You know what? You look around a lot of places. Oh God, what's that one where the bulldozer guy took half of the
Very Sweegle.
Sweet. Well, no, but one of the houses that he took apart. I can't remember the guy that lived there. It was nothing but, and he had 30 or 40 lawnmowers in various shapes, because someone at one time actually fixed them. It wouldn't surprise me if they're not fixing these things. If you look at them, they're pieces of junk. Nobody would buy them, but anyway, like I say, the lawnmower thing, it kind of piques my interest, but.
But the lady died, and they're still living there.
He lives in the
So how
trailer
do
in the
you get
backyard.
Well,
They put a second trailer in.
there's
Yeah,
issues
yeah, moved in now.
there's probate issues on that, and that's the fact that somebody is living in a property that may or may not belong to them, unless I have a complaint telling me I want them out. I have no standing to go and say, hey, are you legally here? Can you legally live in this house? I don't have that authority, neither does the prosecutor. So
He's fighting relatives for possession of the house.
well, that's what I figured, but that's not police work. That's probate, that's civilian lawyers.
On the bright side, I've seen increased patrols by both you and the city, and there's been a lot less traffic.
Yes.
A lot less traffic
We are.
in the
It's
drug
going to
houses.
be incremental, and you know, and it sounds like I'm trying to argue with you. I'm really not. If that information you gave, and I was aware, and I look at the crime reports, I can't remember the last time a lawnmower was stolen. 2-3 years, or reported.
Right.
Jerry.
Code enforcement was mentioned early on in this discussion. Has that all been transferred now to the development department?
It is, but it's a partnership. I still, you can imagine, Barb McFall, who's doing it, as a retired city patrol sergeant, awesome job she's doing. She gets her commission and authority to do what she does for me, but she actually works for DCD. So it's a cooperative effort, and she has continued the good work that we've done with code enforcement. But I'm telling you, you have to be a little patient on that, because if it appears, and my attorney, he's also my attorney, is constantly telling me if it looks like I'm using code to harass people, I can get in trouble for that. So I have to kind of have a big scheme. So if I'm going to enforce one code one place, I have to enforce it everywhere and not be selective.
So how are code violations or apparent violations handled now? What's the process?
The same way it always has been handled. We threaten them, we threaten them, we threaten them.
It's initiated by a resident of
Yeah,
the
calling and complaining. We threaten, and ultimately they either, most times they voluntarily will do it. Rarely do we cite, but when we do cite.
So where does the house stand on Pioneer?
You know what, I'm wearing everybody out. We've gone almost 2 hours. I will gladly stay, and Mark will stay. We'll answer specific questions, but I'd like everyone else to be able to leave if they want.
Well, thank you so much for coming. You guys are great. Nice to see you.
So I'm a little farm.
And they're gonna know that they need to go somewhere else. Neighborhood Watch consists of only 3 major components. Organization, getting to know your neighbors. Education, getting to know what tools are available, what resources are available, and how to use those resources. And the last one, and the most important one, is communication. And that communication is not only with us as law enforcement and public safety, but communication with your neighbors. You see something, say something, not only to us, and we give you the number for dispatch, which there are some packets up here. Be sure you get a packet when you leave. And there for a while, it was really difficult to find out who do I call. PAPD, the sheriff's office. What you really want to call if you want a deputy, if it's in a life-threatening situation, of course, 911. But if you've got a question, a suspicious vehicle, if you want to talk to a deputy, or you want to talk to a police officer, you can call Dispatch Center, which dispatches for all of Clallam County and the Olympic Peninsula here. And that number is right on Lorraine's card right here. And I can't urge you enough. Put it on your phones, put it in your address book, write it down and put it on your refrigerator. That number, once you learn it, just dial that number and you will get 24/7 response. You know, when the 911 call went down there for a while, a few months ago, I guess it was, that number still worked, went to the same place, and you could have got somebody right away. So that number is critical. Target hardening your home is in this brochure. Very important brochure. Okay. Education. One of the most important, I remember when we started this 10 years ago, it was a dream of ours to be able to provide all of you in the county with more insight on all the ways you could be helped. Well, we had a volunteer come down from Alaska that was an IT specialist, and he designed our website. And I routinely look at websites around the country in other counties and states, and I believe that we have one of the best websites for what we do that's in this country. Tremendous amount of information. Can you happen to go to that website? Is your little clicker thing? That website, if you want to know something, you can go to that website. And by the way, if you don't know how to get to a website, you can just go to Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use and type in Clallam County Sheriff. This is what you'll get. And you're going to get anonymous tips you can send in, calendars of what's going on. You can see who's coming and going from the jail. And because most of the bad guys are relatively few in number, we have 73,000 folks here in the county, all the cities and everything. You'll see the same people in and out, and the prosecutor will help you become aware of how that happens. But you'll get to know, and sometimes you'll see a name go into the jail, and you might notice that the crime reports go way down because
My name is Lorraine Shore. Thank you very much for coming to the meeting tonight. I know it's a lovely day out, so we really appreciate your attendance. And this is it primarily Gales Edition, Harborcrest area? Is there anybody from somewhere else in the county, another neighborhood? Oh, great, excellent. So anyway, what we do tonight is we'll talk about crime prevention and what we have going on in the county, particularly in your area. And we'd like to hear from you. If you have a particular issue that you would like us to talk about, if you have a dope house in your area, or you have a speeding problem, or whatever your particular problem is, let us know, and we'll be happy to help focus on that as well. So tonight we have Sheriff Benedict from the Clallam County Sheriff's Office, and we have Chief Brian Smith from the Port Police Department, and Prosecutor Mark Nichols. And I work for Sheriff Benedict and Chief Smith sometimes. And then we have Al Kameen, who is the volunteer for the Clallam County Sheriff's Office that really has done a tremendous amount of work with Neighborhood Watch over the years, has been very, very successful in many areas. Then we have Carol and George March, who you met, that have been helping you get down here. And without our volunteers in both the Sheriff's Office and the Port Police Department, it would be very, very difficult to do quite a bit. And we have Bruce O'Rourke, who just joined the Port Police Department volunteer unit. And thanks to one of our meetings, I think, he got roped into it, but he's doing a fabulous job. And we rely on people in the community to help us to find you if you're lost. All of our search and rescue volunteers are, well, they're all volunteers, the entire search and rescue team, except for the supervisor, who is a sergeant, and then we have one of our deputies as well. And then we have the incident management team, and they will respond in the event of an emergency, and we activate the Emergency Operations Center, which is right here. So if we have a big disaster and we have to get everybody together and figure out how we're going to respond with all of our agencies in the county, those are almost all volunteers, and they come and they get meet training a couple of times a month. And we really like it when people would like to volunteer in those areas, because there is going to require a lot of people to come in here and help organize that entire effort. So we do a lot with our volunteers. We have a wonderful department on both sides, and so I will let Sheriff Benedict start, and then Chief Smith will.
Thanks. Am I on the camera just right? Thanks a lot. I just got back from 2 weeks in Kona, Hawaii. It's been a bit of a culture shock here, and I'd like to say I just can't get used to the time zone, but it's too damn cold outside, and it's pretty warm. So anyway, a long time ago, I went through a Navy school to become an instructor. And they said the key to presentations is three things. Number one is tell them what you're going to tell them. Number two, tell them. And number three, tell them what you told them. So I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to sum this right up. I'm in, gosh, I don't know, 7th, 8th year of doing this, and each time my presentation gets shorter because I'm getting better at condensing. Here's what I'm going to tell you, and it'll fit into place when you hear everything else that follows. Number one, lock your stuff up. Number two, watch out for your neighbors. Because if you don't, you will be a victim of crime. And being a victim of crime is not a rewarding experience. As a matter of fact, if you go through it, and our prosecutor here will probably hit on that, it's far from a perfect system. It's the only system we have. But it seems that victims of crime, when they actually go through it, and they go through the court process, and a lot of them are awarded compensation and restitution, and they've been ripped off to the tune of $20,000 or $30,000, and they see they're getting a check for $5 a month to pay them back. You're not going to like that. Anyway, that's just the way it is. The good news is that our violent crime rates are exceptionally low. The bad news is that our property crime rates, which have had a long-term decline, appear to have bottomed out and are inching their way back up. And it appears that this crime is, by and large, in our county, driven by users of opiates, whether they're prescription or heroin or whatnot. So that's a fairly difficult problem to deal with. It isn't just a matter of finding the dope dealers and locking them up, although we try to do that. A lot of it is having to do with what we're going to tell you, to target, harden, and try not to experience this. So with that, who's next? Or are there any questions for me? Wonderful. I'll be here in the back. If anything comes up, I'll jump in. Chief Smith.
So just to follow on what the sheriff said, we very much appreciate you guys being here. This is collectively one of the best parts of our job, is doing these presentations and meeting with you all and providing you some tools and some ammunition to as the sheriff said, the thing that we don't want to talk about, the bad things that happen is, it's property crime. But there is good news. There's things that you'll do to your neighborhood. There's things that'll be different in your world after you're here, after you get to know each other, and after you listen to some of these great presentations. And, it's like the tree that falls in the wood that no one sees. It didn't really happen. So property crime is a problem for us. Drug-addicted property crime is where it all comes from. And like today, talking to Rob Olkine with PDN about some burglaries that had happened. They're, occupied residences, people were home when it happened. The houses, for different reasons, weren't locked. And you can't get mad at people for not locking their houses, because, it's their house, they don't have to. But we really would like you to. Like the sheriff said, lock your stuff up. It would make us very happy if you did. And
even when you're home?
Well, sure, why not, right? I mean, that's a good question. I used to not ever do it. I'd be home, I'd leave the front door unlocked. I had a known drug offender about 6 years ago show up on my doorstep on a Saturday morning, and PAPD was very busy that day, and I could not get officers there quick enough. So I stood on my driveway at my curtilage with this person who was high on, I think, heroin. And
State Neighborhood Watch volunteer is going to give you a nice quick presentation on the 3 things that really make up Neighborhood Watch, and then we'll go into some more detail after that.
When she said quick presentation, that was a hint to me to keep it short. I sometimes get pretty excited about it. The nature of Neighborhood Watch is, number 1, first and foremost, crime prevention. To keep from being a victim in the first place. So keep that in mind, because if you are a victim, as everybody here has told you, you won't be happy not only about being a victim, but about the realities of today's systems and justice system. So avoid being a victim. And as high as 95% of the crime that occurs, the property crimes that we're talking about, most of the issues are totally preventable. They're what we call low-hanging fruit for the criminal. People leave their cars unlocked. They leave a window open. They leave their homes unlocked. And yes, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But in today's reality, you do need to worry about that. And unfortunately, all those things, and I'm included, I've got a lot of years under my belt, and I picked up a lot of habits along the way. Some of them are being trustworthy of folks, and I have to continually ask my wife when we go out, did we lock that door? Did we check this window? Did we do this and that? And that's how you change habits. Habits are basically unconscious responses to circumstances. Over the years, you form certain ways of reacting to certain circumstances. And you just do it unconsciously. It's like tying your shoes, you don't even think about it. You can reach down, tie your shoes, carry on a conversation, and be done, and not even remember tying them. That's a habit. So you got to change your habits. And if you live with someone, get them to help you. If you live alone, get yourself some Post-it notes and stick near the door that says, check the locks. Remember to lock the windows. You're going to hear a lot of tips about things you can do to target harden your home. But the first step is to make yourself more situationally aware. And that means, what habits do I have that are creating a problem for me? If you've ever had a car ransacked or car prowled, as we call it, it's because your habit didn't teach you to double check your car door and lock it. You would be absolutely amazed at you're going to see some statistics on car prowls and how many people have their cars prowled through. And unfortunately, a lot of people used to leave a lot of stuff in their cars. We have a lot of firearms theft out of vehicles, and that puts everybody at risk, including our officers. So please start becoming aware of habits. How many of you ever pulled into a parking lot at a convenience store or something and seen a car with its engine running and nobody in it? Maybe even children in the back seat? Yeah. Well, you're seeing more and more stories where somebody will hop into that car and drive off. Not from around here, although I think there has been an instance. But you can't do that anymore. You have to become aware that people are looking for opportunities, and you take away those opportunities from the criminal.
And I didn't want her to leave too far, but I wanted her in the house, and at the time our 5-year-old daughter thought it was pretty cool, so she wouldn't leave. She was right next to me. And when the officers did arrive, there was a little bit of an altercation in my driveway. And, this lady would have walked into our house. That's with a police car in my driveway. So yeah, blocking the front door, great idea. We're here to answer all your questions. We're here to provide you far more information than there's enough time in the night. And hopefully when you're done and you've heard Al and Bruce and Mark and Lorraine, you'll have some email connections and we'll be able to, answer some questions. And some really interesting things have happened. Bruce started a neighborhood watch group where he lives near Jesse Webster. He's got some great success stories on what they did in their neighborhood, applying a lot of the stuff that Al talked about in a meeting that I was at. And his neighborhood is now a place that they don't call the police that much anymore, right? They still do, but I mean, compared to how it was. So we're excited to have you here, and we're looking forward to your questions and talking to you. Thank you.
It's working. I love it when my computer stuff works. So we all have a responsibility to be prepared and to get training, and that's what we're here for tonight. And the reason, of course, is because, as you'll hear tonight from the people that are going to present, our staffing levels are somewhat limited in each of our departments, but because we work together as a team, Port Angeles Police Department works with Sheriff's Office, works with School Police Department, we're able to accentuate the resources so we can have a wider coverage with more people because we all work together. So that's really great. But the unfortunate part of that is we can't be everywhere at once. And so if anything happens, you need to be prepared and know what to do. And that's whether it's a crime issue or a disaster issue. So we're going to talk about how to do that. How do you contact the police department? When should you contact the police department? What can you do to prepare yourself in the event of a disaster? Now, we do have a great program called Map Your Neighborhood. Has anyone attended Map Your Neighborhood? Oh, a couple people, okay. Map Your Neighborhood is a wonderful program that it will be very beneficial to everybody in the entire county because it does focus on that golden hour after disaster. How do you prepare yourself to survive that? Because you most likely will not see a first responder for a while if we have a major event. So Map Your Neighborhood will teach everyone that attends that class how to determine who in your neighborhood needs assistance in the event that there is a disaster, who has resources that are available, say someone has medical training or they have propane or a front end loader or something that you might need, and you keep that information with you at home. And then if something happens, you can just take that information out and utilize that so that you are much more prepared than if you had not attended something like this. So I would encourage you to do that. If you signed in on the sign-in sheets and gave me your email address, after the meeting tomorrow or next week, I will be sending out an email to everyone and I'll synopsize this meeting with active links and information. So you can contact me and ask if you'd like to have a Map Your Neighborhood meeting or if you have any questions. So what is Neighborhood Watch? Our fantastic